So let's keep going, right? Because the thing I love about Mehdi is he makes me feel good about the questions we've been asking, Chewy. He gets to ask Piers Morgan finally, after all those people, if you guys are long-time watchers or listeners, you'll have heard us say this, when everyone always has to go, do you denounce Hamas? Do you denounce Hamas? Yes, yes, yes. But no one ever says, do you denounce Israel for flattening hospitals? That's where we start between Mehdi Hasan and Piers Morgan.
So let me start by asking you a version of that question. Do you condemn Benjamin Netanyahu's terrorism against the children of Gaza?
Well, I wouldn't categorize it as you do as terrorism, although I do think that they've committed some acts which I do think are acts of terrorists. For example,
so hang on, they're not terrorists, but there's been acts of
terrorism.
They just do terrorism, but they're not terrorists. It's like how you know your granddad kind of goes, "I'm not a racist," and then expletive or various slurs come out. But I'm not a racist. But you say racist, but I'm not a racist. That's the same kind of logic.
Aggressive, violent expansion on the settlements on the West Bank. I think you could inarguably say, well, that's a form of terrorism. My hesitation in using that categorization for what Israel has done in Gaza is that, as I've said to Palestinian guests, I'm not sure how else people expected or how else the Israeli government should have responded to the terror attack of October the 7th.
So let's just work this through. I'm not sure how anyone should have expected them to respond. Now let's change Israel for that and put, say, ISIS in there or Al-Qaeda. Like, let's say America's bombing ISIS, and therefore ISIS sets up terror cells to take down America. Do you think there's a defense which kind of goes, well, how do you expect ISIS to respond? Of course not. Of course not. That's why it's such a terrible argument from this man who, through these clips you're going to see, is going to tie himself up in knots to try and acknowledge the bad war, bad events that Israel is participating in, while still not condemning them.
The monumental scale of what happened that day. It seemed to me Hamas knew exactly what Israel would do, didn't care about its civilians, was hiding amongst them, had a tunnel system, and thought, bring it on, let's have this out. So I've always felt that Israel not only had a right to defend itself, but had a moral duty to defend its people.
By killing Palestinian kids?
Well, listen, my brother served tours of Iraq and Afghanistan in the British Army, as did my brother-in-law. There are military all through my family. They've all taken...
Did they do war crimes?
Piers probably had bone spurs. That's why he didn't do it. He probably had bone spurs from his younger days.
Imparting conflicts where civilians, including children, have been killed. I think the particular problem in Gaza is that half the population are under 18, of 2 million, and that clearly a disgusting amount of children have been killed in this conflict. So my answer to your question, I wouldn't categorize it as terrorism to respond to a terror attack by going to kill the terrorists. However, has it got completely unacceptable, the level of civilian death that has been going on in Gaza, particularly children? I say yes, and this has to stop.
What is the acceptable level of death?
Well, I don't know. That's why I've always said from the start.
This so echoes, we didn't get into it in that depth, but that so echoes the conversation we showed last night with Sam Cedar and Tim Pool. It's like, okay, so if this is not acceptable, what is? And they go one level, one step down, one level down question, can't answer it.
What is proportionate? What do people expect people to do? I mean, for example, when America, after 9/11, went into Iraq, as you know, I waged a campaign at the Daily Mirror newspaper against it. I thought it was an illegal...
But you haven't waged a campaign against this?
Well, because because the point about Iraq was they didn't perpetrate 9/11. It had nothing to do with it. So it's
about the goal, not the conduct of the war. I'm asking you about the conduct.
Yeah,
right? I don't want to have an argument about the goals.
I understand.
I'm saying if you kill, for example, you saw the video, because I know you're on social media as much as I am, a video that Washington Post verified of a little kid, 13 years old, is attacked by a drone.
I haven't seen this, but this sounds horrific. Not just do the Israeli Defense Force kill a child, but then they kill the people coming along to help that child after the child's been hit by a drone. I haven't seen it, but it sounds... if you've seen it, is it accurate?
Don't look for it.
No, I'm not.
This is accurate. It's horrific. I've seen so many drone strikes over the past year. I don't think I'll be the same again. And that one shook me.
Video that Washington Post verified of a little kid, 13 years old, is attacked by a drone, minding his own business. He's not Hamas. There's no Hamas hiding behind him. He's attacked. As he's bleeding out and people come to help him, they attack again. That's a double tap. It's what Al-Qaeda and ISIS do, double tap strike. How is that not an act of terror?
Well, because
2 kids are killed deliberately.
I've seen a lot of videos. Some of them are...
But that one specifically, is that an act of terror in your view?
It is in your eyes.
No, I'm asking your view.
Well, no, I haven't seen the one you're talking about. What I would say about it is that I want to see all of these things properly investigated and to establish whether there have been war crimes committed. And if there have been, absolutely hold the people who perpetrated it to account.
How? How?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
They don't subscribe to the International Criminal Court. They won't allow people to be extracted to The Hague or something like that. How do we hold Israel to account for the things that they've done? I love that question of how many children are acceptable.
Yeah, what would be
and I would
proportional?
extrapolate that out. How many aid workers? How many journalists? How many hospitals? How many refugee camps? What's an acceptable level of collateral damage in this regard when you have a top tier, one of the most militarily advanced countries on the planet, waging war on essentially a city, one of the most densely popular, well, formerly densely populated places on earth? What's acceptable? Should we as an international community demand absolutely surgical reactions from Israel? Yes. Israel was able to hold on to their bottle for weeks and weeks and weeks after Iran attacked them with a missile barrage because they wanted to make sure that they hit their targets and they didn't want to escalate things. So they can hold off when they need to, but they knew that if they kicked up enough of a stink and made enough lies about what happened on October 7th, that no one was going to come rushing to the aid of these Muslims. And I think that sits with the entirety of the international community, as we've wrung our hands and our various governments have said, oh, look, as an international rules-based order, we have some serious concerns and we're urging Israel to show some restraint. Well, Israel is soaked in the blood of children and going, yeah, we're not listening to you.